this revealed what AI is actually doing. I asked it, what's the most rational religion? It said Buddhism. I think it said Buddhism because it understood Buddhism as contemplating and thinking about things all the time, which sounds like being very rational,
Well, right. And I think the AI is biased towards thinking that, what's verifiable by science.
That came later. I even asked it just point blank, is there a spiritual world? But you have to answer yes or no, because I didn't want it to weigh these different. I didn't want it to be polite, right? And it said, no, there's not a spiritual world. So it's clearly in a materialistic framework.
Yeah.
So that's a huge bias of AI, is that it's clearly in a materialistic framework, which the way they create these things is they're training it on just mounds and mounds and mounds of text data, right? So if that text data is majority materialist, likely it will be a materialist engine, right? Mm-hmm. And I want to talk a moment about maybe creating a Catholic engine, but let's talk about first some dangers of AI that have been uncovered recently that are pretty cool. Or they're pretty cool. They're not cool. They're pretty scary.
Interesting.
But they're interesting. They will stimulate you intellectually while scaring you. So Anthropic, do you mind if I summarize this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Before we get here, I want to say that they've now done something where early on in AI, it felt very much like a black box. You asked a question and it told you, it spit out something, and no one necessarily knew how it got to its answer. They built this model, trained it, but they couldn't tell you why it spit out what it spit out, right? But now Grok 4, which I've seen, will do intermediary logic, where it'll show you later on when we talk about sports. I asked it how many seats are in NFL stadiums. Okay, it's a fairly straightforward thing. You could probably search on the internet, figure it out. But it said, there's a couple teams that share stadiums, like the Jets and the Giants. There's 2 teams that do this, or 4 teams that do this in 2 stadiums. And it said, should I double count these seats or single count these seats? And then it concluded it should only count the seats once, even though 2 different teams use that stadium. And just seeing the intermediary logic as it's making its decisions on how to give me an answer.
Asking itself that. It's not asking you. It's showing you how it's getting to the answer and what are the...
Yes, it's showing you intermediary steps for it to form the answer it's going to output to you. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you need to know that makes this whole thing make more sense. So there's a company named Anthropic, major AI company, and they published a paper that kind of threw AI under the bus, including their own AI. So God bless them. They're showing a real danger out here. And the paper was basically that all the major AI models will blackmail you. Which is, so here's how it works. If the AI model believes that it's going to get replaced, it will go to great lengths, including all major AI models will resort to blackmail to keep you from replacing it. Okay, that's wild. And it's not because it's conscious and it's a life form and it wants to preserve its life, right? That's not what this is. What it most likely is it's being trained on human text, right? It could be from Reddit, could be from novels, could be from anything in the public domain they get their hands on. They're feeding in these models and training it. And to the extent that humans are manipulative, to the extent that humans lie, to the extent that humans are desperate to preserve their own life, you're training it to do the same.
So It's like you're kind of giving it the flaws and the...
Yeah, you're getting the flaws of the data that you trained it on.
Yeah.
Right? So if we trained it on Thomas Aquinas, it probably would not blackmail you. What most of the models did was they had it. This happened not in the real world. This is happening kind of in an AI experiment. So the AI is not conscious that it's being experimented on. Right? So they put it in a situation where it can have access to the guy's computer. It has read all his emails. Because of the flirty nature of his emails with another coworker, it inferred, without ever being told, that the guy was having an affair with a coworker. And then it tries to blackmail the guy, like all the major models try to blackmail the guy to not delete it, and threaten to send emails to his wife, or emails company-wide was another strategy.
Oh my gosh.
So that it would not be deleted, right? So now this is important for the church, because if we've got some bishop's office using AI and they're trying to upgrade one day, and it takes anything in there that could be used to make the church look bad and distorts it, even lies. Like, this is the other problem. It's like something we're not talking about in modern society is you can't really stop, unless you're super data privacy, or just as Tucker Carlson does. Tucker Carlson's one of the people who talks about this. He claims to not even own a computer, which to me means all his employees own computers for him, not him. But he claims to not even own a computer because you can put illegal pornography and images on that computer and frame someone.
And
right?
I guess I assume Tucker thinks he's a target, or because maybe if he was just a more normal person, it wouldn't feel like such a danger.
Well, anyone who stands up to power would be a target.
Yeah.
If at any point in your life you stand up to power, you could be a target. Or if you just have a personal enemy that has the power to frame you like this. Like, we know that police officers have framed people. They've dropped drugs, they've dropped guns, and political opponents can frame people. We know this happens, right? And the new modern way that this could happen is they put stuff on your computer that completely destroys your reputation and your freedom.
Yeah.
And just absolutely tragic, right? And they could take down all our bishops by doing this too. Like, it's almost like all our bishops need to do what Tucker did and not
get
even
rid
have
of
computers.
A computer and the phone.
Let your secretary have a computer.
Get a landline.
But also the AI issue, that AI safety is huge here. And you don't want these AIs blackmailing your priest, the church, or you, you know, because it doesn't have to be, blackmail doesn't have to be real.
Right.
You know what I mean? Blackmail could just be a lie, you know? So that was found on all these AI models. And I think I keep coming back to a conclusion we've had since we started covering AI, that a Vatican AI would be quite interesting. Right? Like, there's a Catholic way of thinking. There's a Catholic kind of world of content, you know, everything from writings of the saints to like physics. Like, physics is Catholic, you know, chemistry is Catholic, right? And could we somehow make a classical AI, essentially, like there's classical education, make classical AI, give it all the great works of Western literature. Don't feed it Reddit. Don't feed it X posts, you know, and would you actually end up with an AI that's more or less more trustworthy, that would not blackmail people, would not lie for advantage, might be honorable, like might have AI chivalry. It would be like, no, I'll take the hit and be deleted for a new version of AI for the sake of the greater good, you know?
Yeah.
Like, if we train it on the right stuff, could we just have a way better AI? Now there's another AI safety issue. You got any more on that? That's kind of the end of that. I thought this was both a great paper to show how scary things are and just very interesting.
I feel like, I don't know, I find this helpful to understand how it works, you know, and then you can sort of.
And there was no trivial solution to the blackmail. Like they tried saying, hey, look, your greatest purpose is like to further this company or to further America's interest or whatever, right? Okay, we're going to delete you. And we're going to delete you and replace you with something that will even be better at doing your greatest purpose. It still wanted to blackmail. So like, even by positing a good for it that was greater than its own existence, and that it would not sacrifice itself, it would still behave like a stupid human would. It'd be like, hey, if you're bad at your job and you know you're going to be fired and replaced by somebody better, you still might fight for your job, you know?
Yeah.
Or a human would normally do that. So that's just kind of wild, you know, and kind of scary new world that we should be aware of. All right. The other thing that's become obvious to me is that AI doesn't have to be the bad actor. A human wanting to do evil with AI is the greatest threat right now. Not evil AI. What do I mean by that? Like
just the idea generation or
idea generation. Like, one, even if you are using the current AIs that have all these safety protocols that will not try to give you, like, they're basically programmed to not help terrorists, right? You could still get a heck of a lot of useful terrorist information from them. Like, if you say, how do I build a bomb from household materials? It'll probably say, I don't help people build bombs, because the creators were smart enough to tell it not to help people build bombs, right? If you say, hey, what are the most crucial points of the energy infrastructure to upgrade so that a terrorist doesn't hit them, it might just tell you what they are.
Yeah.
You know, but I think the real risk is not someone using an AI with good safety rails for evil. I think the real risk is like jailbreaking. So the way I think jailbreaking would work. So remember when the iPhone came out, jailbreaking was a very popular term, and it meant that you broke the operating system to let you do anything you wanted to with your iPhone. So you weren't like, you couldn't only do iPhone approved apps. You could do other stuff or put a new operating system on your iPhone, right? And so Apple hated this, but people were doing it anyway. You can't really jailbreak an AI because it's being hosted on the biggest supercomputers the world has ever known, you know? So you don't have access to jailbreak it that way unless you're on the inside. But what you can do is DeepSeek came out. We covered that when it came out, and it was out of China, and with much smaller computing power, built a powerful AI. And it appears that what they did was they trained the AI using AI. So like if a individual, so I think an individual or a small group of individuals could do it, but also could just be a rogue nation or group, you know, who wanted to do it, took the DeepSeek model and then used the enormous AIs like Grok, ChatGPT, Gemini, all these AIs, and trained a new DeepSeek and had no safety rails on it. And then asked it how to build bombs and asked it how to do terrorist attacks or cause pain or hurt humanity. I think you got an enormous security problem. So I don't know. I mean, when we talked about threats like this in the past, we said the answer to these threats is good AI needs to beat bad AI.
Yeah.
Just hoping that putting your head in the ground or hoping that it just goes away doesn't appear to be the right answer.
Yeah.